Hey everybody, we are back with another episode of R&D. Today we will be talking about the fantastic film Black Panther, which is again a Marvel Studios comic book movie. To get us started, we'll go over to Justin for some nerd history.
I don't think I should be the one to do the history on Black Panther. Take it away, Len!
Oh, okay, I guess I'm doing this. Alright. The Black Panther was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1966. He first made his appearance in the Fantastic Four issue number 52. Now, while the group, the Black Panthers, was actually founded in 1966 as well, the character Black Panther was invented 6 months before. There was actually talk of changing his name to the Black Leopard because of this. Now, although there were other black superheroes in comic books before this, he was actually the first one to be featured in his own comic line. Now that that's out of the way, we can get into talking about some of the finer points of the film, what we thought was good and what we thought was bad. So stay tuned.
So Black Panther was a good movie, right? And there's a couple of things that I liked a lot about it. It was a great standalone film. You didn't really need to know anything about the outer world of the MCU. If you didn't see Civil War, which first introduced T'Challa and, parts of Wakanda, that's okay. You don't need to watch that. This movie is good enough to just watch and you understand what's going on back to front.
I really like this movie for the same reason that I really like the Ant-Man film, which is that it's a different flavor from all the other films that we got. It takes you to a different place. It gives you a different hero, a different way of going about things.
So for me, the good of Black Panther is the themes. T'Challa has to deal with the sins of the father. He inherited the kingdom after the untimely passing of his father, and basically is thrust upon the mantle of Black Panther and has to deal with the fallout that his father never could in life. In the course of the movie, T'Challa has to be faced with the decision to whether he should steer his kingdom to open his borders or continue the isolationist tradition like his past fathers have done before him.
You get to decide what kind of king you are going to be.
Obviously, the cast is a big part of this film.
This movie was great because, I'm gonna say it, it's hella black. Like, you don't see that in very many movies. 98% of the actors are of African descent, whether they're British African, African American, actually African. Like, it's good, and they all play well together.
A list of a lot of new and fresh young actors, but you've also got some of the old school actors like Forrest Whitaker and Angela Bassett in there as well.
They updated a lot of the stuff from the comic books, which is great. You got a character who in the comics is named Man-Ape, and for good reasons they don't call him Man-Ape.
Also included on the list of old school black actors is South African actor John Connie. Now, if you don't know anything about this guy, and I suggest that you go look up his history because it is a crazy story. That man has had a rough life, but it's great to see him in this film.
Killmonger, which is a product of his father's darker sides of decisions and governing of Wakanda. With these characters representing hope and despair, you have T'Challa wanting to break the cycle of the errors of past rulers of Wakanda, and you have Killmonger, who just wants to burn it all.
I waited my entire life for this. The world's gonna start over. I'ma burn it all.
One of the things, I'm actually, it's kind of a good and a bad thing. I'm sort of disappointed that they killed off Ulysses Claw because he was actually like a great villain for the time that we saw him in the film. So I'm a little sad that we won't see him, going further in the other films, but he was a really cool part of this film.
The action was pretty decent. I liked some of the spy stuff in it, like the scene in Korea was pretty good.
And in the final note of this film, I think the strongest message it brings across is inclusion. If we all reach out and try to do better, and try to set up our lives to better ourselves and each other, we all benefit from it.
This movie, I guess, is just really importantly about sort of gratification. And I think it's great that it sort of shows role models for the black community and a generation of young people to come up and see people like them, you know, be featured in these films. Not just, you know, empowering in a way for black culture, but I think a lot of people were struck by how empowering this film was for female actors as well. There's a lot of strong female characters in this movie, like Princess Shuri and Okoye.
Who in a million years thought that a Disney movie was going to open up with a Too Short song? That's amazing. That's like, check. Things that I didn't like about it, some of the dodgy CG. It could have been better, but what do I know? I'm just a dude on YouTube.
A lot of things in the film were done with CG, and I really think that they didn't need to be. It seemed like they got excited that they had a budget, or they either couldn't shoot certain things on location. So to fill in the gaps and make the film seem more exciting, they used a lot of computer special effects. But I think the need there was that they definitely wanted to find a way to make Wakanda feel more technologically advanced, you know, than any of the other things that we've seen in the other films. So I kind of like what they did with T'Challa's suit, like in this, was pretty cool, but I also kind of like the old suit that he had in Civil War. I thought it was more practical.
I wish there was more of Ayo, who was seen in Civil War. She was the gal that was like, move, or you will be moved. She didn't get very many speaking parts, because Michonne from The Walking Dead pretty much took all of her fucking lines. And, but that's okay too. I'm okay with that. They're all hot. Bye.
Other than that, the only thing that sort of made me stop was the Wakandan armored rhinos in the last scene of the movie. That was kind of funny.
A PlayStation 2 Rhino kisses Michonne.
The revolution will be live.
Okay, we are back with more roundtable discussion, and we'll be talking about Black Panther. I think we can all agree.
Woke ass Wakanda!
I think we can all agree the movie was pretty good.
It was alright.
Do we have any talking points we feel like we may have missed in the good and bad section? I think you hit on something important, which is that
I tried.
yeah, the thematic sort of conflicts of the film. There's this like old versus new going on.
Yeah, well, it's basically like the representation of hope and despair. T'Challa being hope, which he's always trying to do his best as humanly possible to steer his people into the right direction for the future, whether it's to close off borders or open them up and try to be a part of the world. But you have the extreme opposite, which is Killmonger. He's just like, nah, screw that. It's shit. The world's cheating me out of, you know, a happy life, a father, and any sense of like normalcy. So I'm just gonna burn everything and try to stay on top of the hill as long as possible.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I liked how everything, there wasn't a necessarily like things are black or white.
Yeah.
Like there was no necessary good or necessary evil. It just depends on whose opinion you relate more to. And like I didn't bring up Killmonger as like he was a good part of the movie, and like his character arc was really good. He was a fleshed out character, so you kind of cared about him. You felt for what happened to him.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that is super jacked up, and the fact that, you know, they tried to hide this whole thing from him.
It's a well-written villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to know if Ryan Coogler wrote like that, the fucking slam poetry he did at the end, or if he got some MCs to write it, because those were some hard ass bars that he dropped right before he died. Like that was savage, and it was just like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, that gets into like the second time I saw the movie, I kind of sort of got past all the spectacle of it, and there's some pretty heavy emotional moments in the film, and that was one of them. His death scene. The other one is the scene where he's standing in the ancestral plane and he tells all of his ancestors, "You are all wrong. You let your fear of us being discovered, of us, our world being changed, keep us from doing the right thing." I think that was a very important moment in the film.
Well, I like that T'Challa basically pulled a sort of yin-yang dynamic. He told what his father tried to do, a little bit what his father tried to do, and a little bit what Killmonger was trying to chase, and he found a truth in between, which is, we're not going to fully open up the borders, but we'll start a little bit of an outreach with that Wakanda Outreach Center. So it's like we'll slowly start opening up ourselves up to the world. Not too fast, but we'll just try to feel things out.
So that brings me kind of to the next subject. Is what's interesting to consider in this film is where it takes us in terms of the other films. You know, like what role is Wakanda going to play going forward, and how is this going to change everything else that we see in the MCU? Because we can already see in Infinity War that you know, Wakanda is playing a major role in terms of, I guess, the conflict. I don't know if it's on a small scale or a large scale, but it seems to me like they're making the choice to like fight in Wakanda because it's the more technologically advanced nation in the world. They stand a better chance there.
Well, it looks like it's on a pretty large scale. I mean, you see that big shot of just everyone coming after each other. So it's Wakanda's going to play a major part because, you know, that's where the vibranium is. I'm sure other than what's rumored is the Vision is hiding out there, you know, that Thanos also probably just wants all the vibranium, you know, so he probably wants to take all that, so he's gonna do whatever he wants. You know, maybe he wants to. I hope they don't try to make him build a bunch of dumb Ultron bots out of vibranium. That would be stupid. But like, if he's wanting to like make armor for his whatever dumb minions, like that'd be cool. Little side note, another thing that I really liked, and it's probably just because born and raised here in the Bay Area, that, you know, Ryan Coogler is from Oakland. Yeah, everything he does, there's Oakland-based stuff in it. So he took, you know, because Marvel Comics was founded in New York, so everybody and their mother came out of New York, like when they were being created. And so any of the America stuff, instead of it happening in Harlem, happened in Oakland, like for the movie. And so that's what I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, I just love to see it.
For me, in my opinion, for what Wakanda, you know, playing the role as for Infinity War, I think it's going to be the Helm's Deep of Marvel. I get the feeling.
Where everybody falls.
Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah.
Well, in the comic books, I don't know if I have this accurate, but didn't, like, during some of the Civil War conflict, didn't Wakanda become a haven for mutants
I can't remember.
and Inhumans?
No.
No. Yeah.
I think they just didn't want anything apart. They were like, nah, get out of here.
Yeah.
Like they didn't want. Well, so in the Civil War comic book series, you know,
Here you go. Put your hard hat on. We're going deep.
Yeah. Tony. So this already happened after the House of M, where Scarlet Witch pretty much destroyed 98% of the mutants. So there was only 198 mutants left, and so all the mutants were detained and stuck on, like, at Xavier Mansion. And then because they tried to be at Genosha or something like that, but then Genosha got destroyed. So they're like, nope, we're keeping all of our endangered species, you know, here. And then I think, you know, Tony was like, hey, you guys need to sign up for this. And pretty much Cyclops was like, get the fuck off my lawn. Like, we're dealing with our own stuff, and also you motherfuckers have all these sentinels pretty much protecting us, even though that if we try to leave, they're gonna kill us. So, nah, suck a dick from the back. And, like...
Well, I believe at that point in the story, the Xavier Mansion is, like, self-proclaimed. Like, they're basically, like, their own nation, kind of like an Indian reservation, where
yes,
federally they don't have jurisdiction over what happens there.
Once Genosha got destroyed, which was the mutant haven,
yeah,
you know, then Xavier's Manor became that. And then, you know, because also at the time, that's when Storm married Black Panther.
Yeah.
And so they could, I guess, go there, but I don't remember much of how their involvement was. I think they were also like, nah, kick rocks, we're not choosing.
Yeah. But I was saying, like, I think that would be an interesting bit of long game for them to play with the films now that Marvel has the rights to the X-Men again.
Not yet.
Well, yeah, again,
Not yet. Everything is still in litigation.
But yeah, eventually by the third film, like, they maybe get into his relationship with Aurora. But that all depends on how they end up deciding to depict the X-Men, whether they're going to start over or whether they're going to imply that the X-Men have existed all along.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of difficult, like I'm hesitant to get into it, but it's really sort of unavoidable to talk about this film without talking about some of the racial controversy involved. Now, I feel like, like this movie is, for me, is not about, villainizing anyone. It's just about shedding a spotlight into a culture that we don't typically see in film.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people have taken that and sort of interpreted it the wrong way, and believe that this movie is, a dialogue about white villainy. But I don't agree with that, because even in this film, the villain is actually an African American.
That's true. To a degree, he is a villain. It's just what Eric Killmonger was trained to do. And Bilbo said it the best, like, this is what he was trained to do. He goes in, he takes over something, and they kind of like, they destroy from the inside. It's what, America has done in all these other wars.
Yeah, but I feel like it's all his own motivation, because he gives this whole dialogue in
He's Batman! Think about it. He's Batman. His parents were killed. He went and trained his ass so he could find who killed his dad. So, in his right, he is the good guy. He is Black Batman.
Yeah, but using your example, Batman decides that there's a line not to cross, which is to kill somebody. Killmonger is sort of way crosses over that line and decides, yeah, I'm going to count all of my kills.
Yeah,
it's a conscious decision on his part.
That's fine, but I'm just saying he's still in this sense he's Batman. Like he just kind of his opinion is that's his objective. Like he's doing what he feels is right, and there is some form of justification in that. So he's more. I wouldn't say he's necessarily a villain. The main villain really is Claw. And then, like, Killmonger just happens to have his own plan as well.
Yeah, but
because it's kind of like even saying in Civil War, Bucky is really the bad guy, but Baron Zemo was the actual bad guy, even though Baron Zemo didn't do shit, but he did. He destroyed the Avengers.
yeah, but we'll let you get in
Well,
here.
Killmonger's chasing catharsis he probably will never find, no matter how many people he dominates, conquers, and kills. He's becoming what he hates, and that's the wrong path to go down.
And that's my point. Is it's like his whole sort of mindset. It gets into like a larger sort of racial issue, which is that some people are angry about the injustice that they see, and unfortunately, going like his route, you can't end that kind of prejudice. You can't end that conflict by becoming the problem, which is what he does.
Right.
So in that sense, he's the villain.
But he also does. He recognizes it, and that's why he decides to fully kill himself.
Well, I think it's like that speech that people say, no villain actually believes that they're the villain.
Right.
They think, in their eyes, they're the hero. He thinks that he's doing something that's
Okay,
just.
so
you either
he's
die a hero, or you live long enough to become a villain.
here's the thing, and again, like I'm just kind of being devil's advocate, or I guess within this, I'm the white devil advocate, and so he's like a mix of Batman and Magneto. Like you feel for Magneto. Magneto's a bad guy, but you still feel and relate to Magneto when he's doing all this stuff because of the injustices that happen to him as a child.
Yeah, you're sympathetic to it.
So,
But that doesn't mean that what he does isn't bad.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, but, I mean-
the child breaks the cycle. It's like no more excuses of isolation, no more aimless rage, hoping that you'll find the catharsis down, fill the hole.
Our past politics have created this problem.
and another thing that I did like about the movie, within the kind of, the spectrum of what we're talking about is I liked that there was the perspective of an African American and of an African.
Yeah.
Because there is definitely a mentality and a difference between the two.
Yeah, their cultures are different.
That a lot of people don't think about, and a couple of people that I've talked to this about was like, I personally haven't seen that brought up in discussions very much. And the last time I saw it brought up was in like an episode of Law and Order or something like that, where like a cab driver like killed a bunch of quote unquote thugs because he didn't relate to them, and like he was like, oh no, they're not me. They kept trying to call me brother, but I'm not.
Yeah. Well, I think the last time we saw that in film was like films like Coming to America. I mean, although it's more of a comedy, it's still like that culture shock of those two identities meeting each other. But
now I want some McDowell's.
Yeah. I read this article I found really interesting. It was talking about the problem that Hollywood has with white gaze, and how in this film that was kind of turned upside down. So what I mean is that Hollywood typically, when they film movies that deal with ethnic sort of focuses, they frame those movies from the point of view of a white person. Now, I don't necessarily think they're intending to be racist. I think it's just a weird marketing thing. They think that makes the character more relatable. But The Last Samurai, for instance, this is a movie about Japanese culture and the end of their isolationist politics, and it's shown from the point of view of Tom Cruise's character. And there's lots of examples of this. However,
but Ken Watanabe was the last samurai. It wasn't Tom Cruise.
Yes, of course. But what they use these characters as they're the audience, and therefore everything is explained to that character so that it's explained to the audience. It's kind of a writing mechanic, and you're always sort of like keeping up with that character as you watch the film. But in Black Panther, Ross's character is that role, but it's turned backwards, because we actually see, rather than being introduced to Wakanda and everything through him, we're introduced to it through T'Challa. And so we've seen Wakanda and we've seen everything, and so we as the audience are one step ahead of Ross, and so we get to sort of like laugh at him stumbling into this situation and being lost, rather than be explained and talked down to through that character. So I thought that was a very interesting way to go about the film.
I also want to say, I mean, granted, when you and I saw this movie, I swear, I think you were the only black guy there, and I was the only white guy in the theater, because we saw it in Fremont. Here.
We saw it in an area that's racially dominated by Asian and Indian folks.
Yeah, and I might have really been the only person that chuckled at. I never realized how funny of a racial slur colonizer was.
See,
that had me rolling.
I'm glad you felt that way, because like I laughed at the joke, but I could hear the alt guys groaning, going, "Oh," you know what I mean?
You know what? It was funny, like, especially just how nonchalantly sure he said it. Oh, the colonizer.
Yeah, it's gonna be like that.
And then also like, ooh, we get to take care of another broken white boy. I loved it.
Well, I think
it was so good.
I think that these jokes are made in good fun, but I know that there's people that don't see them that way. I know that there were people that were groaning about the comments that Mary Jane's character made in Spider-Man: Homecoming about the Washington Monument being built by slaves. I could hear people going, it's sad that kind of dialogue happens. You know what I mean? I think, and then that's one of the things is like people. It's like you shouldn't be threatened by this film. Of any ethnicity. We're talking about, of course, about white people that take issue with this film. You shouldn't be threatened by it, because it's not really about villainizing white culture. It's inclusion, and the movie takes time to show you that even the Wakandan culture had flaws.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, their isolationist policy didn't work well for them. His father murdered his own brother. They created, this villain. They created Killmonger, and so the movie is about what they do going forward in the end. And I think that's the thing that everybody should be taking from this film, is that even within black culture, within this film, we're looking at ourselves, and we're looking and going, okay, well, what do we do going forward?
Well, it's just like the quote at the end: the human race is one tribe.
you know, yeah, the people who like without seeing the movie, or if they like went in and didn't realize that, you know, 90% of the movie takes place in Africa. If they're trying to be like, oh, why is it all like this? And blah, blah, blah. That's like someone going to see like a Hong Kong movie and going, where are the white people at? Like, why, how come I'm not in this? It's like, because it's not about you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Like,
And I agree. This is...
how are we doing? Good.
Okay, well, let's try and wrap this up. Obviously, like I said, I think we're all in agreement that this is a great film. It was difficult to find fault with it.
I like the battle armor rhinos. You guys can suck.
You know, obviously, are we excited going forward to see the next two Black Panther films?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Down to see it.
Black Panther 2, aka Avengers Infinity War, is going to be dope.
So, overall, congratulations to Ryan Coogler, the director of the film, who is from Oakland. Having a great career so far.
He's 3 for 3.
Yeah, I think Disney's doing a good job at getting fresh new directors for some of these films. And we had
Unless you're Ava DuVernay.
yeah, we had Taika Waititi for Thor Ragnarok, and now Ryan Coogler for Black Panther. Okay, that wraps up our discussion for Black Panther. If you like what we had to say, please follow and subscribe, and maybe support us on Patreon. Have a good night.
Let's put in the extras, dude.
I will not. My mother wants us this shit.
Yeah, I just look like a big rock. But I just don't want my taco sauce stain.
No. You look like a granite structure with no stains.